Tanis, the former mayor of Holland, Michigan. I also served on the city council. That was a long time ago when I was a lot younger. And then I worked for the International Republican Institute for a couple of years under John McCain. Was dispatched to Bulgaria and did democracy building work after the fall of the communism, the fall of the wall and everything, and worked with center-right parties to help build them up and teach them how to be parties and help them take parliament and the presidency. Despite all that was a long time ago. I'm not a professional politician. I've spent the majority of my career in the church, worked for the Reformed Church in America, and also for the World Communion of Reformed Churches. I'm not an ordained minister either. That's my wife, but I am a practicing and believing Christian. I'm running for Congress for the 4th District, House of Representatives from Michigan, because quite frankly, I'm fed up, frustrated, and just aghast at what's happening in our country, and especially with Congress and their abdication of their responsibilities as a co-equal branch of our federal government. Yeah, so a primary role of the representative to Congress is to represent the people. To be able to represent the people, you've got to be able to talk to the people. So one thing I would do is implement regularly scheduled town hall meetings throughout the district. You'll know where to find me, when to find me. So that'd be number one, and I'd be open to any and all residents who want to come and voice their opinions. And I'd also listen to them. Number two, I'd set up a hotline, so to speak, with local elected officials, counties, city, townships, where they've got a number directly to me. If there's an issue that they need to talk to me about, they can call me. Vice versa, if there's an issue I need to talk to them about, I can call them. And then thirdly, my offices both in the district and in Washington would always be open for any constituent who just shows up, appointment or no appointment, whoever I'm meeting with, especially if it's not a constituent. I'd clear my schedule and sit down and listen to what the folks have to say. Well, number one, as a traditional Republican, I'm pretty fiscally conservative on that front, and so I'd be focusing in on the budget and how money is spent. And as a non-accountant, I'd need my staff to help me to explain to me what's happening, and then I would be happy to explain what's happening to the constituents. I think it's critical to know how much money is being spent, where money seems to be being wasted, how we can improve our priorities, decide on better priorities on how to spend our money, and then make sure that's communicated well with constituents on websites, through email, through social media, and in the town hall meetings. Well, I think that's one of the, accountability is one of the roles and responsibilities that Congress has kind of not fulfilled, especially in the past few years. As a co-equal branch of government, one that's also in charge of the budget and therefore seeing how that budget money's spent, Congress has to make sure that the administration, the executive branch, is fulfilling their wishes. So you've got to be on top of that, holding hearings, making sure the legislation is passed and implemented. If not, holding members of the executive in contempt or moving through the judicial system to enforce the laws that were enacted are all parts and pieces of that. But we've got to start being serious about governing for all Americans and not just having performative stances or worse towards what is very serious business. I just bought a house in the last year, and that search was something else. So it's not just Southwest Michigan, it's Northwestern Michigan too, up in the Holland area, where prices have jumped in the last years. And not only prices, but interest rates. So the first thing that members of Congress and in the federal government can do is work towards a stable economy that lowers interest rates. Just small percentage changes in the interest rates balloon or reduce the cost of housing. So that's number one. Number two, I think we need to partner with the state government and county and local communities in figuring out how to build out more housing. The church that I go to in Holland has partnered with a local nonprofit housing group, donated land, and new apartments are being built on it right now. It's been fun to watch, to make sure that people who can't afford to buy a house can afford to rent a place. And I think we've got to find ways to partner with these nonprofits, to partner with builders, to work especially on the local level to get more housing created, because there is a shortage, and that shortage was prompted by the last real estate crash and seems to be prolonging itself into the future. And so incentivizing through taxation or benefits or whatever on the federal level, and then making sure that the tools are at hand on the local level to build more housing would be the way I'd look to go. Well, I think the best public safety is local public safety. I think our police departments, our sheriff departments need to be given the resources that they need to enforce the law on the local level. On the federal level, the FBI has to be tasked to working in partnership with state and local officials to bust the criminal gangs and organizations and systems that exist across state lines and even across national lines. We've got to focus down on that, break the cartels, break the mafias, and just make sure that criminals are prosecuted and that everyone is held accountable. I think, again, on the federal level, what number one priority would be to ensure that there is a fiscally disciplined budget. We're vastly overspending. We're putting this debt burden not only on ourselves right now, where if not the majority, certainly a vast amount of the money being spent by the federal government is just paying off interest rates or the interests on the debt that we've taken on, but we're also burdening our children and grandchildren. So fiscal discipline to ensure that the government doesn't bankrupt the entire country would be step one. Step two then would be working again through the different levels of government to find ways to, number one, make sure our citizens are educated in the ways that they will be able to seek jobs in the future. We are in a crazy time right now with AI coming on that is going to be very disruptive to the workforce in general. So we've got to get ahead of that and find a national policy and enact the laws to make sure that it doesn't just wreck our economy, but that it energizes our economy. And then I think we want to incentivize these new growing industries through tax breaks and grants, if need be, to train workers and to implement new technologies, such as a lot of the green energy revolution. I lived in Germany for 10 years working for the World Communion of Reformed Churches, and they love their cars as much as we do. They also are a high energy industrial country. But they have committed to getting rid of coal power plants and doubled down on green energy resources. And it's been amazing what's happened there in job creation and energy savings as well. There were days when we were actually paid to turn our lights on because excess energy was being created for free. Well, I think the federal government's got a small role in this. Again, I think what we want to be able to do is care for the least of our people. We don't want people falling through and dropping off into poverty and homelessness. We want to be able to provide at least a safety netting to keep them and everyone safe. To implement that, though, I think it's best done on the state and local levels. So the federal government can provide funding for that. There are states that are wealthier than others. We shift some of that money over to the states that have a higher level of poverty and implement those programs to ensure that everyone is fed and housed through whatever innovative decisions are made on the local level. But yeah, this is where my convictions as a Christian come in. I mean, we're supposed to care for the least of the people, to help the widows, to help the orphans, to help the poor. And we just got to be able to do it in a way that doesn't bankrupt the U.S. and also is the most effective. So while the federal government can provide the money, I think it's the local governments and communities and the nonprofits that are best placed to implement and help. Well, again, it goes back to being open and available to all constituents. I'm an old white guy, right? But I work at an institution that studies Dutch immigrant history. So I know where my ancestors came from and what they had to go through and how they had to fight to get their rights and voices heard. And I would do the same then for all my constituents. If need be, meet with ethnic minority groups. But also it's just this open door policy. It's not closing the door on anyone regardless of race or gender or political party. Well, it's an important question. And I look back at my experiences especially in Bulgaria, where I went in 3 years after communism fell, and where the former Communist Party was now the socialists and still in power and still in control and still trying to manipulate things and run the country despite what the people wanted. But it took a lot of work then to bring the center-right parties together to stand up and equal then the power of the socialists. But I saw two things there. Saw the after effects of a totalitarian government, but I also saw the excitement of these folks who were finally being asked to vote, finally being asked their opinion about who they want in their government. And in the US today, I'm seeing a slow erosion of our rights. The gerrymandering in other states is off the charts. That is not good for our democracy. The commitment of certain political leaders only to their own parties rather than to all citizens is also concerning. I think if I were elected, again, I'd listen to anyone regardless of party, and I would work to promote ways in which one can vote are made easier. We don't have corruption in our election system. We have great clerks on the local level, making sure votes are happening properly and legally. And these ways and attempts to curtail people from voting just they get under my skin. And so I would fight for easier access to the polls, for maybe even a holiday for election day, and for elections on days that aren't in the beginning of August. This primary election on August 4 is just, come on, who wants to go vote in August? We all want to be at the beach. So I think we've got work to do. We've always got to guard against those who would like to disrupt our democracy, and we have to fight for our democracy because it's special and important, and we need to preserve it for our kids. Again, I think, I'm not a professional politician, so I've watched the politicians speak, and yeah, that, I don't know, they're a special class, it almost seems to me. I want to just be part of the people. I just want to be with the people. I want to listen to the people. I want to have a beer with people. That's where I was collecting signatures for petitions in coffee shops and breweries around the district, and was just having really wonderful conversations. I love to listen to what people have to say. And as mayor, I was open and available. As U.S. representative in Congress, I'd be open and available. And it's an important position, but you can't let the importance of the position make you self-important. And yeah, because that just defeats the purpose then. So I think it's just, again, this accessibility and availability, and even a desire to want to just be a normal person too, and just talk and listen. Yeah, I'll just say this. 3 months ago, this is not where I expected to be. This is not what I expected to be doing. But it struck me in the bleak midwinter, and boy, was it a brutal one, that we need to have a choice in each election, not having the ability to say yes or no to the incumbent or to a challenger also hurts our democracy. So I've taken it upon myself to be that choice. This is partially a protest against what I've been seeing in Congress, but it's partially an opportunity for the voters of the 4th District to exercise their voices in the most powerful way, powerful way. Yeah, the best way at the ballot box. You could protest, you could write letters, you can comment on social media all you want, but what counts is going in on August 4 and casting your vote. And I hope that you'll consider casting it for me, and at least I'm providing that choice for you.